Thanks for coming, everyone. This is the last talk for the day on the intersect track. After this talk, there's another break, and then I think we'll be moving into the main room for a shared talk. When we do move into the main room later on, the slides and the audio will be available in here as well. This is the overflow room, so we're all together one big comp. And yeah, I will leave it to Steve to explain to us all how to talk to our bosses.
Okay, thank you very much. Last couple, any more? Okay, you've seen the sort of title here. If I talk too fast during this, please tell me to slow down, because I do get kind of excited and a bit motivated sometimes, which is unusual at this time of the afternoon. The concept of this presentation is I'm going to try and convey some methods for communicating with executives, because it's all very well doing Nessus scans and doing vulnerability testing and doing penetration testing, but if you can't actually convey the message to the organization, it's all for nothing. So I'm going to give you some sort of pointers and some hints from the experience that I've had while I've been working in industry. As some of you may or may not have read the bio, I do a little bit of lecturing for SANS on the 504 tracks, incident handling, on the wireless penetration testing and risk analysis, which gives me a lot of interaction with system administrators. In my day-to-day role, we also provide consulting to a lot of the big film and game industry organizations, and I've written a lot of standards for a lot of these big players, trying to help them improve their security. So I've worked right down from the system administrators right up to the high-level, C-level staff, and I've seen the disparity in communication methods and communication techniques. And that comes down to, if this is going to work, oh, see, it's not. Oh. We get people saying to us, when we're out there, the security people are saying, you know, I've done all this work, I've done all this penetration testing, I've got all these great reports, but I can't get my boss to listen. I've done all this, I've gone time after time, pen test after pen test, and every time it comes around, they're flagging up the same issues, the same problems. I was at an international company's head of incident response, and they said, you know, we are losing Qualys scans every 2 weeks. We're getting so disheartened because every 2 weeks we're saying, look at all the problems on your systems, and the organization does nothing. So they're saying, why can't I get my boss to listen? What they're actually saying is, he's not doing what I want him to. And that is part of the crux of where the security person and the company, sort of their ideas and concepts as to what your role is, start deviating. What we're going to do in the next 45 minutes is actually look through how you can get yourselves back on track, so you're talking with the business and the business is listening to you, because it's a two-way process. Now, I was told there might be some sort of senior executives here. You know, sort of show of hands if you're more the coalface dealing with security. Sort of quick, sort of 1, 2, 3. Any sort of administrators, you know, high-level administrators? Yeah, there's a couple there. So any sort of executives management type people? A couple. Okay. So I'll be looking at it predominantly from the security administrator type front, but I'll also be giving you some pointers as to how you can work better with your security guys. Because it's two ways. You can't expect security people to bend completely. There needs to be some sort of meeting in the ground. So the concept of communicating is that sometimes we forget, and email is a great way of forgetting about communicating, because we think that we've put all our points in, I write them 3 screens of a lovely email, send it to my boss, and then wonder why he doesn't act upon any of it. What we've got to remember is communicating is talking and sharing information in an agreed format. If I don't get some sort of acknowledgement from the recipient, how do I know that actually he's received my information in the right way and is going to act upon it? If I give my boss a 600-page Nessus report, is he going to read it? No. Will he act upon it? No. Have I communicated the message of the problem in the organization to him? No. But I've sent him the report. I've paid the consultant. He's done his testing. I've given him the report. I should be complete. No, I'm not. And that's why we're going to go right back to basics as to what we need to look at and how we need to actually communicate. Now, when you sort of join, this is a look at a basic sort of terms of reference from the security guide. And most people, if you look around on the monster.com or monster jobs and things, you'll see this typical specification coming out for a job. You know, most people are probably working in a similar job specification. It's quite generic, it's quite bland, and that's what they're looking for you to do. We're going to look through this, though, and look at how there's not actually one job description there. There's 2. And depending on who you are, will determine on your interpretation as to what this job description is. They're all fairly generic terms. But this is the kind of one that you as the security guy is going to be working to. So you're going to be looking at developing and implementing security. Yeah, that's what I would expect to do. Understanding the business, yeah, I would do that as well, and give them some advice. Okay. Be the security expert and work with the IT. That's, you know, I work beside the IT. I speak with them on a daily basis. So that's what the security guy is going to be working with. Let's look at his boss. What's his job? Or what's the role of his boss? Ultimately, if he's head of a company, he's there to make money. We're not charities. We're not out there for the good of our fun and our health. Well, some of us are charities. Sorry. Yeah. But we're there ultimately to make money. If you're a charity, raise money so you can do more stuff. Okay? And your boss is there to make strategic decisions, isn't he? He's not looking at what he's doing next week. He doesn't care whether there's milk in the fridge and whether the power's running. He's looking at the 3 to 5 years. He's looking at strategic decisions, and he is able to make those strategic decisions by employing good people. And the reason why he employs good people, because he's got a security expert that's you. So he's relying upon you to let him make his strategic decisions so he can make more money. Ultimately, he wants to be best in his class, his sector, or his market, because that's what his role is. That's what his responsibility is to his shareholders or to the owner of the company. Okay? And he wants to maybe develop new offerings. His personal goals, yours were to make a bit of money, have a bit of job satisfaction, you know. He's looking for stay out of bankruptcy. And that's quite a big thing in this day and age because, you know, it's all very well saying you need to do a penetration test, but we can't physically afford another £20,000 for a pen test. He wants to stay out of court, whether that be the divorce court because he's working, you know, 20 hours a day, whether that be because he doesn't want to be taken to court by regulators or he doesn't want to be fined by somebody else. These are the courts he wants to stay out of. And ultimately, he wants to stay out of the papers. He'd love to get a life because being the CEO is great, but it does mean he's there at, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning reading emails, 8, 9 o'clock at night. He wants to get a life. So he is relying upon you as a good person to help him make his strategic decisions and improve his business. That's your goal. So you're working for the company's moving along quite nicely, and then we have an incident or a problem or a question is raised. And you go and do your nice report. You spend 2 weeks researching something, and you generate a nice 300-page, fully indexed, nice flags around the side, nicely bound report, and you send it in to the boss at 4 o'clock on Thursday. 4:05, the boss's secretary's on the phone. Yeah, the boss would like to see you sort of, say tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I think, wow, you read that report fast. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So you are going to sit down the next day with the boss and you're going to try and communicate your findings from this report. Okay, so you're invited to this meeting. Now the problem you have is you're there because you know there's a problem. You think, oh yeah, I've spent this, look at this report. Have you read the report? You didn't read the report, right. Okay, I've just wasted 2 weeks of my life. So you didn't read the report, but we've got a problem. Now because he didn't read the report and you're expecting him to have read the report, you're like, right, I need to explain to you SQL injection. How long have we got? Boss goes, you got 6 minutes. Right, 6 minutes, SQL injection. This is going to be a bit difficult. Okay, so the problem we have is the technical people know what the problem is and they know how to fix it. Okay, it's going to need a little bit of management buy-in. It's going to need a little bit of money, as everything does. Now the management doesn't understand the problem because, quite frankly, he didn't read the report. He was expecting you, as a good person, to help him and advise him what he was doing. He doesn't understand what the risks are, and if he doesn't understand what the risks are, he doesn't understand the impact. If he doesn't understand the impact, he will not make a decision. So you'll be in there for maybe 10, 15 minutes if you're lucky, the boss. You'll walk out thinking, I wasted 2 weeks of my life. I put a really good report together, didn't even read it, doesn't understand the technology. Why am I working here? He walks out of the meeting thinking, you know, I thought he was a really good guy. I give him a job. I said, you know, give me a paper so I can understand this thing. Gives me this map. I ain't going to read that. I ain't got time. I was here till 11 o'clock last night. What do I want to read this for? That's his job. Why isn't he talking to me? So we have this sort of friction that because we're working at cross purposes. Okay? There's two sides of the problem. Let's go right back to the job role. Okay? Let's look at actually what this job role says. The individual sees this. He says, I'm going to implement security, advise the business, be the expert, and work with his technical people. Let's reorder that slightly. This is actually what he's going to do. He's going to work with the staff to work out what the problem is. He's going to be the expert and say, this is what we need to do. He's going to advise the business that this is what we need to do, and he's going to expect them to implement it. Now, he's changed his purpose there, hasn't he? He's now become somebody, instead of actually being somebody who's going to work in an advisory capacity, he takes his job role and says, well, actually, no, this is a set of instructions. Research the problem, identify the solution, present the problem to management. Management said no. Research another problem, present the thing to management. Management says no. And he keeps going through this until after a while he thinks, why bother? Why send them another report that they're going to ignore? Why do I need to keep doing this? Let's go back now and look at what the management's point of view of this is. Again, I'm going to highlight the things. The management wants you to develop security in an organization. They want you to develop the business. They're looking for you to advise the business and be the expert and work with IT. Okay? Being proactive, self-started, self-motivated allows you to communicate better with them and talk better with them. Let's reorder these slightly. Be the security expert, work with the IT, advise the business, develop the business and the security in the organization. It's exactly the same words, but you see how the role is completely different. This is a more cooperative environment, and this is what they're looking for. So when they put out the job spec, this is actually the kind of person that they wanted. They didn't want somebody to go off on a tangent and say, I've researched the best products in the market and we need to spend £20,000 and implement this product. This will make us more secure. What they wanted for was somebody to say, hey, I've looked at this. There is a risk, but I think we can tune our processes this way. We can maybe look at tightening up something this way. And I think this would be a pragmatic solution for where the organization can reduce its risk. Now, ultimately, I don't say you have to invest in the technology. I tell you that where you can reduce your risk, because the business understands things like risk. And you give it to something that they can understand and comprehend, and all of a sudden, you get progress, and you get things moving along. So the downside is that if you keep doing the 200-page report, submit it in, get frustrated, go through that cycle 4 or 5 times, you really do become disheartened. At that point, you don't like going to work, you think, oh, what's the point? They don't listen to me. And that is exactly the common attitude we get when we pitch up as consultants and they go, well, I don't know why you're here because I submitted this report exactly the same findings 3 or 4 times before. And then they're amazed that 4 months after we've left and we've given what he thought was going to be exactly the same report, he sees change coming in because we communicate what we've observed and what we found in a different way. And therefore the organization accepts what we put, which further compounds his frustration with the organization because he said, well, I submitted the same report, same time, and they ignored it. You get a consultant is, oh, you listen to what he says. He didn't say anything different, but he said it in a different way. So things that could change. Now, for the security professional, you need to actually learn the business. Find out what and this answer is, well, of course I know what the business does. Do you? Have you been through all the various departments and said, hey guys, what do you do? What computers do you use? Well, what kind of stuff do you do? What's important to you? Go around each and every department. We went to a large music label, and we sat down with the head of the IT department. He'd been in post 3 months, and we said, "Oh, we've seen some potential problems on your network, and that we hadn't even connected at this point. We just about how the network was organized, structured, laid out, etc." And we said, "Can we sort of talk through what you've got on your infrastructure?" And he started going, "It's a little bit difficult." Well, there's a whiteboard. Let's go and, just draw the, we don't have to be Visio, just draw it. So he went away. And 5 minutes later, he came back with a color printout. I'm like, oh, he maybe doesn't want to let us see exactly what's on the network. When we caught a look at it, it was actually a photograph of the same Magi board, of the handover that he had got from his predecessor, who had drawn the network for him, and that was the only thing. And you're like, you're in job how long? About 2.5, 3 months. And you don't even know what's on your network? Are you responsible for this? Oh yeah, I'm head of security. Seriously, dude, you gotta get a grip of this, because if you don't know what's on your network, how can you actually start and advise the business as to what's going on? So you need to actually learn about the business and then understand the business. What's critical to it? Do you have, accounts departments? Accounts departments are really kind of mellow, middle of the month. Get towards the last 4 or 5 days when the invoices got to go out and bank payments got to be made and payroll, and they're a frenzy of activity. Solicitors have the same sort of process, okay? So learn about your organization, learn when is a critical time for each of the departments. It's going to pay dividends, because if you're out there socializing with the users, seeing what they have, when it comes to advising them, you know what's important to them, and you can give them better advice. And giving them better advice that's personalized to them, rather than the industry best practice is. Okay, that's great if you're just talking at people. If you want to cooperate with people, you need to say, hey, look, I was down there last week, and I think we've maybe improved things. It's not going to impact, it's not going to cost anything, but it'll make us a lot more secure. And try and get them on board a lot more, just by socializing with them. You need to meet the users, and you've got to accept decisions. I'll probably cover it later on, but you got to understand it's not your network. As a security guy, it ain't your network, and it ain't your risk. You're there to point things out and go, I wouldn't do that. I think we should maybe do something with this, but it's not your network. And you have to sometimes accept the fact that the business is going to take that risk. We haven't got buckets of money. We haven't got resources that we can just throw at every problem. What we have is a number of risks, a number of potential impacts, and we have to prioritize and deliver those appropriately. Now, from the executives, we got to actually teach the business. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to, I don't expect the CSIO to go, okay, man, let's go around the business. Okay, but what I do expect is for them to say, you're a new recruit, you've just started in the organization, I don't expect you to be at your desk for the next 3 weeks. When I used to work in the Air Force, I took on the security accreditation for around about 200 systems. And the first thing my boss sat down to me and he said, right, you're new in post, you've got 3 years in this job. Here's your 300 business cards. I don't expect to see you for 2 months. Right. Oh, right. Is that holiday? Leave? No. I want you to go and see and visit every single one of your systems. Work a plan out and go around them all. Because unless you've actually seen what they are and what they're doing, then you can't deal with them. Just like I said, you've got to learn it and understand it. They've got to allow you the time to do that. Because they say, well, day one, I expect some good stuff from you this week. You've been in job 5 days. Well, what's going on? Well, I haven't even got out of the corridor yet. I want to speak to the admin people and the IT people. I've got to get my clearances. There's all that stuff. And they've got to allow you that. And also, the executives, they've got to then understand you. Because we're going to come on to this in a minute, but if they don't actually, they treat you just as another person, then they're not going to get the best out of you. As a security guy, and I'm speaking to the sort of managers here, security people they're kind of weird because you don't get a project manager leaving at 5 o'clock, going home and thinking, you know what, I'm going to do some project management tonight. Oh, yeah. You don't get a clerk thinking, I'm going to go back and shuffle some papers. But security guys, they don't sleep. They're just, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to research that PHP exploit, or I'm going to look at some. They do that, and they're a different breed. And as a manager, you've got to understand that your security guy needs an element of trust placed in him because he's probably the most loyal person you have. He will be working for you even when he's not even on the football pitch. He'll be thinking, I know how we can solve that problem. And he'll be doing that all the time because security people are different. They just love what they do and they're so enthused. And if you really work with the people and understand the person, you can trust them. If you trust them, you can include them early and then you can be receptive to new ideas. And that will make you able to interface with this guy so much better because you are listening to him and you're more receptive to growing him as a person and as a resource. So looking at the management, back to these 4 things that we said before. This is the same job description in the nice order. To show your commitment, you've got to, if you're going to teach him the business, because if you don't teach him the business, he can't be the company security expert because he can't advise you on it. If you want to talk about and improve and develop the security of the organization, you've got to get them in early. You don't wait until a program's 3 years down the line and go, yeah, can you come in and check this security stuff? Because we need a tick in the box here. No. You've got to get them in early when budgets are good, when he can put you on the right road and get him in there to say, you don't want to touch this technology, really unproven. It's like, and this is really quite, it's quite difficult for managers because they see security as being a real sort of problem. And the example I like to give is if you have, suppose you're moving people around the country, and as a company you think, hey, look, let's go buy a bus. And you think, well, there's lots of ways we could do this, but if we go and speak to the security guy, he's going to want a really big bus. It's going to have to be really well, nice and secure and have lots of stuff in it and everything else. But what I've seen is this really cheap bus on eBay. Right? And we're going to buy this cheap. It's like made by Ford. There was some problem with it blowing up occasionally. But it's really cheap, and I think we should do that. And they go out and they spend their money and they commit themselves, and then lo and behold, security gets involved at the last minute and they go, you didn't want to buy this. This thing's a death trap. Oh, security's causing problems again, isn't it? Oh, these security people, they come in and they call because they get you in too late. If they get you in early, you can say, hey, you don't want to go for this because this is bad. This is a bad model. This is a bad, whole platform is flawed. The concept of what you're trying to do is going to be very risky. Or more importantly, in this financial crisis that we have, you want to say, yes, you can do that. Yes, it's really good, but man, is it going to be dangerous for you. And it's going to cost you way more money to try and secure it. Because that's important because they get you involved early. Other things, if you want to advise the business, you've got to trust him and you've got to understand the person as well. Because if you don't understand the person, you can't get him involved in as many things as you want. And also, if you want to work with IT staff and develop the business, you've got to be receptive to new ideas. You've got to be open up and say, okay, if you want to try something new, let's give it a go. Let's try in a small community, see if it works. before you roll things out. Don't go, oh, I haven't seen anybody else roll out that technology. Be receptive and listen to what is going on and listen to what he's trying to suggest. Because you've said to him, help us develop the business and help us improve. You've got to put a bit of trust and a bit of faith back. Ooh. So, I've already covered this. I've sort of said, you know, say, because the security professional is that rare breed and he has this loyalty, you've got to really trust him. And as a manager, if you don't trust your security guy, seriously, change him. And that's might be cruel, because if you are not able to turn around and trust everything that your security guy tells you, then you have no working relationship that he can rely upon. Okay? If you're the security guy, if you think your boss doesn't trust you, I'd leave. Because he's not going to take what you're doing seriously. He's not going to actually take your ideas and try and deploy them and work with them. You know, that's just not going to happen. So for the security professional, talking to the boss, you've got to learn the business. As I said, you've got to go out there and you've got to learn the whole sector that you're working in. You know, you might be manufacturing rubber chickens. Well, you've got to look out there. Well, who's manufacturing rubber ducks? And who's manufacturing rubber sick? You know, you got to look at everything out there, because those are the people who are your competitors, and those are your peers. Because it might be that there are similarities between who's trying to attack you. You know, Anonymous might have an issue now with rubber chickens, and you might be the next target for Anonymous. Okay? And you can club together, you can share information. But also, when you're talking about trying to inform the business as to what's going on, you can give them examples from the same sector. Okay? So if you know what's going on in your business and going on in the environment, you can give them better advice. Say, understand how you make money, because that's important. Ultimately, you can talk about impact here. We can lose some customers' database details. But in all honesty, the attitude towards losing customers' credentials, certainly in a lot of the organizations we work with, they say, well, when you signed up and you gave us your email address and you set a password, we said, make sure it's a unique password. Right now, we don't really care. You know, and now the numbers are such that if you lose 3 million, 5 million, 6 million users, it's in the press for a couple of days, then it sort of disappears, doesn't it? So you need to understand how you, as an organization, you make money, how you protect your investment, and how you develop. Understand where the product is, understand the service you give, and what is key and critical to that. Because at that point, you're starting to understand how you deliver that service and how you bill for that service, and therefore how, as a company, you continue to survive. And learn the language. If you don't speak the same language as your users, how can you communicate? There's a lot of big companies now talking about socializing ideas. You don't write a security paper and say, this is what we need to do as a company. Because people will pick it up, and some of them will read it, if it's maybe less than 2 pages. And if they don't like it, they'll just start giving it a bit of bad mouth behind your back. Oh, don't like that new policy. Oh, no, we're not going to implement that. That's not going to work. What you need to do now is almost be the politician. You need to find out, right, this is the solution that we need to do. You need to start talking to people about, hey, what do you think if we were maybe to start doing a bit of this? And start socializing amongst the department heads to say, this is the way we're thinking of moving, because the regulators are going to be pushing us this way early. It's better that we make the move ourselves. It makes us more secure. People in the same sector, that rubber duck company got hacked last week. You know, it's going to be talking about layoffs because they lost whole weeks manufacturing, 10 million rubber ducks, all destroyed. So if you can do that and socialize your ideas, when you do push the proposal out to the boss, you can say, I had management buy-in from 3 other department heads, and so we're thinking this is going to be a good idea. He already thinks you're communicating, you're talking with the business will be more receptive. I already said this, you don't own the network, and you sort of don't own the risk either, okay? And you gotta take that, and really it can be quite difficult, because we are passionate people, and when we see things going wrong about, why we still got Telnet on the system, seriously, why? And you wake up in the middle of the night thinking, why? And you've told the boss countless times, that's not the way things are done. And you've got to just accept the fact that you tell them, that's really bad, you don't want to do that, and you've got to step back from the decision. People are amazed when they say to me, we've got this Windows 2000 application, it's a little bit flaky, but we're going to put it in the internet. You go, cool. You happy with that? Yeah, sure. It's not my network. It's not my data. It's your risk. You're signing it off. I wouldn't do it personally. Massive, massive list of risks. But if you wanted to put your server on your network, on the internet, with your customers' details, fine. I'll advise that you don't. But I'm not saying no. It's your decision. Okay? Quite subtle. But put it in an email. Put it to the boss. Say, I recommend that you don't do this. Email one BCC to yourself and keep a hard copy at home. You'd be amazed how many times those emails just disappear off the Exchange server. So always keep that kind of thing. That's your get out of jail free, the BCC plan, the hard copy, always a good thing to do of key decisions like that. If also they decide to put the really bad network up there, I would keep telling them. Tell them every 6 months. I really recommend that you don't have that telnet on that system because you're reiterating the point. So they don't say, well, you stopped telling us. We thought it was OK. No, no, no. It's always been a bad idea. It's always going to be a bad idea. I'm going to tell you every 6 months. OK. Now, network security. Network security is like camping. And this comes into the you don't own the risk. We've all been camping when we were scouts or boys brigade, as I was. And you'll see there'll be some kids there, you're going away for the weekend, and there'll be some kids there who are just blinged up on everything. The dads went in and said, just get whatever you want, son. And he's there with a nice aluminium backpack and the nice fully compressed sort of sleeping bag, and he's got the best brand new walking boots, and you're like, oh. And he's the guy who's got the full source fire in his network. He's got tripwire, he's got lockdown, he's got two-factor authenticate. Absolutely brilliant. That's what they choose to do. He's going to put his company on the internet. He's going to be taking the same sort of attacks that you will on the internet. His kids are going away on the same weekend, same British weather. That's how he deals with the risk. That's his investment. There's some people who will go, I'll get a new set of boots, backpack, coat, sleeping bag, that'll do. And they will wing it. And they will hope that things don't go really bad because I haven't got anything to eat with, and I've got six pot noodles. That'll do me for at least 3 days, and that's what they're planning to do. Okay, and they will get through it. And for some organizations, that is the risk model that they accept because they say, we'll do the basics, we'll do some stuff, but we're not going to overcommit, and hopefully we'll get through it. And if we don't, we'll take a bit of a hit. Some people will do very little, and this is either through ignorance, and you've always seen it. You go camping, and some guy pitches up with a plastic bag. And you're going, where's all your stuff? Bag. Where's your sleeping bag? It's summer, I'll be all right, I've got my coat. Right. And those trainers? Yeah. And your pot noodles? Yeah. Got any knives and forks? Okay, and they will be there. They will be there either because they've got nothing, because it's either through ignorance. I didn't know I was going to need this. I didn't know it was going to be this bad. I didn't think the internet was that dangerous. Okay, it might be through no fault of their own, a lack of funds. You may be saying, we need this pen test, we need to get this really bad, and they're going, I could do that, but really, I have to let 2 people go to pay for the pen test? Staff or pen test, which is it? That's the decision, the strategic decision the boss makes. You're going, why isn't he approving this pen test? Because we're 3 weeks away from going bankrupt. Okay. Okay, so it might be lack of funds. And some people might be saying, we don't see the need. What, antivirus? I got a Mac, what do I need antivirus for? Firewalls? I've got my little BT home hub thing. What more do I need? There's only 3 of us. We've got laptops. We'll be okay. What more do I need? So that's the kind of the 3 types of people that you're going to see. And you've got to step back because the scout leader doesn't stand there and go, little Johnny, you just are such a snobby little... And he doesn't overdo those, and he doesn't diss the guy who's got nothing because that's their decision. It's their parents' choice to send them out into the wilderness for 2 or 3 nights, either heavily equipped or under-equipped. That's the risk that they took, and that they will deal with the consequences. So as the security professional, you've got to do the same. Advise the business, I recommend, I'd like to take us from here to here, but I understand that we may not be able to do that. And that's what you've got to do, is take that step back. So when you're communicating with the boss, now, depending on the organization, I've worked with some game companies, and some of their C-level staff are like software programmers. So you can just go in the sort of incident debrief. I'll just show you some log files. Yeah, this is bad here. This, and literally show them raw logs, and they go, yeah. Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, we got totally owned. Yeah, great. And some people, you're up there and you're saying, you've got like your database has no authentication, and I go, what do you mean database? And you're like, okay, right back to basics. So you've got to gauge, you've got to learn about the organization and gauge the kind of people that you have. But if he's a non-technical guy, things like TCP, IP, we may have forgotten what that actually stands for, but he will never have heard about it. Okay? So you've got to look about the language that you use, the abbreviations, little jargon things, and network stats, zipping it up and things like that. It's common, common language that you have, but it's completely alien to what your boss is doing. If he's a project manager, he's about risk, he's about impact, timelines, productivity, costs. Network stats? Is that how many networks I have? Well, we've got 1. My network stats are 1. Detailed technical concepts, I completely steer away from. Long reports. How long a report do you give the boss? You know, we've just done an incident. We did one 3 weeks ago. I give them lots of reports. I said, here you go. Here is the full forensic analysis of the hard drive. Here is what happened. Here's the sequence of events. Here is exactly what happened. There you go. They go, thank you very much. I said, you're not going to read that, are you, man? No. Here's the executive summary. It is a 4-page summary of the said 300 pages. Like, oh, thank you very much. You're not going to read that, are you? Well, here's the 6 deck of PowerPoint slides that you can show to management and actually articulate what's in that in little bite-sized chunks. And they go, thanks. And in the email that I sent all these up, and they were encrypted, in the email I included a 26-word summary of the report. I said, and here is your 26-word summary. And that was the bit he read. And I know he read it, because he said to me, thanks for that. You know, that 26-word summary, nailed it. Because he had enough information as a manager, because managers, they wing it all the time, don't they? With those 26 words, he could run with that PowerPoint deck of 6 slides and brief up. And he thought he knew what he was talking about. He hadn't read all of the other stuff. Someone's going to go for legal when they go and try and prosecute the guy. Someone's going to go to archive. I've done my job, and I've given him the various methods of communicating that he can use, and he got the message across. And that's what we do when we do penetration tests. We do the full report and say, here's your technical report. They go, thanks. Here's the raw output on DVD for you geeks. Yeah, lovely. Here's your 2-page executive summary. Nice. Here's your PowerPoint slides. And here's how bad it is in 1 line. I don't give them long reports. I give them everything in multiple different ways. And that way, they take it on board. So, short executive summaries, 9 pages, 2 pages, 1 line, depending on what you need. Spell everything out in full, you know. You don't talk about, IDS, intrusion detection system. It's a network security alarm. It's a burglar alarm on the network. Give him a concept he understands. Have you ever tried to articulate SQL injection? There's somebody who doesn't actually understand what SQL is and thinks injection is something you get when you get bitten by the dog. You know, having the ability to be able, I use Simon Says. All right, you remember the game Simon Says? You know, and somebody stand up at the front and say, put your hand on your head, and you didn't do it. And Simon Says, put your hand on your head. And you all had to follow this process where if you had the buzz phrase Simon Says, you did the activity. So SQL injection is, effectively, you have an application that talks to the users. And you have a little database where all of our information is stored. And somewhere in the application web page, there's a little phrase, Simon Says. And if the attacker can find the Simon Says phrase, the database does whatever the attacker tells him to. So if the attacker can find in our 300 pages of our website the Simon Says phrase, he owns 3 million records of our users. Now then we can understand. Does he need to know what SQL injection is? No. Does he understand the concept of what I'm trying to get across to him? Yes. And that's what's important. Because once he walks out the room, it'll be some technical thing that he's forgotten about anyway. But at the time when I need him to make the decision, do we need a web application test? He thinks, I need somebody to look for in our website the little Simon Says bits and identify where they're weak. He gets the concept, he signs off the paperwork, I get the result. And that's important. So, for higher impact, we laugh and joke, but, colors, trend arrows, things like that, short and concise. How are we doing time-wise? Not too bad. Do I need to know what the content of that is? Is it good or bad? It's not so good, is it? A lot of red there, a couple of little arrows, a little bit of green, not so good. Status report Fukushima, 29th of March. It's not so good, is it? It's not looking good. Do I need to see the detail? No. An executive? Seconds. Do I need to read anything? No. That's what he likes. So don't put some of your diagrams and some of your charts in the document. Put them in the email body as well. So when you open it up and say, here's the status report of our network review last week. Bang, he goes, oh wow, there's a lot of red there. We need to talk about this. Did he need to read the report? Did he even need to double click the attachment? No, because it's in line and he can't miss it. And that's how you convey your message, because we are in information overload. So I need to get past him going, some security report. If it's important, he'll email it me next week. I'll have time in a month's time to read it. Get it across to him early. And once you've got it, you can do it. We all used to laugh about Nessus, pies and charts, but actually, it was a very effective method. If you ever pay for a report that's got this in it, though, shoot the guy who's just fleeced you. Seriously. But it's really good, isn't it? Because you can go, oh, look, I got some good stuff and some bad stuff. And that's all we're looking at. Quick impact stuff to convey things to the boss. Here's a good network. Yay! We're all nice and happy. And once you've got the boss's attention, you can convey any sort of message that you want to him. And it doesn't always have to be security related. But it's nice and easy. I think. Here's another one. Google password strength. I'll decode this for you. Stronger, weirder. Okay. Looking at different password strength. I think it's got an American slant to it. I claim not for the diagram. But
I have unfortunately known too many old adults who have passwords that.
yeah. You can go there and go, yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, we cracked that one last week. Yeah. Okay, simple thing, conveys a lot of message. Different people, different words, different dictionaries, different strengths. Okay? Ultimately, explain your goal in their language. Okay? Bad news, they don't do security because they want to. Nobody gets up in the morning and goes, oh, I'm going to get myself some security. Unless you work in a security company and you're worried that you're going to get hacked, in which case you do that. I have that feeling several times. But people don't do changes to the system because they want to or because they're going to make it more secure because they're just thinking, this is what I need to do. They do it for some other reason. And you need to articulate that to them. This is where it gets a little bit interactive. Oh, no. Right. These are phrases that the business understands, and security people tend not to, because there's no exploit. No, there's no root shell there. No TCP IP. There's no IP address there. Nothing at all. Risk, cost, decreased performance, increased productivity, reputational impact, regulatory fine, director responsibility. These are all these little strings that you can pull on your management, because they all understand these. Project manager understands these completely. Stick in there, time delay. Project delay, all these kind of things. That's what floats his boat. So we don't talk about how we want to improve security or remove vulnerabilities. We talk about how we are going to affect these. Okay? Think about this one. Why do we need antivirus on all of our systems?
Regulatory compliance.
Could be in the sector. Well, we make rubber chickens. There's no rubber chicken industry. Yeah. Why do I need it? Oh, well, there we go. And that would be our reputational impact. Yeah. And maybe I could be the director. You could be fine. You know, yeah, you start ticking those boxes, and all of a sudden it becomes nutty, doesn't it?
I was saying that is one example where I'd have to say the business actually thinks that it's required now no matter what. It tells me otherwise. So.
Yeah. It is, because you're like, do we really need it? Yeah. It's quite difficult when you're doing a pen test and say, have you got antivirus in your pen test box? Like, can you run a scan of your antivirus? I could, but the pen test will get really short because it's just deleted all my tools. Yeah, and it's getting this message across. Why do we have to replace our 6-year-old firewall? I can't say it's no longer secure. You're like, whoa, what do you mean? No longer secure? Do you know how much we paid for this firewall? And we have this quite a lot when people are trying to replace big checkpoint 9 interface things. They've got the training, they've got all the support. And they're like, I want to replace it. Can we get more protection? You know, there's a sale on, and there's a really sexy chick, and you know, she said we'd have dinner if I could get this order in this month, and it would be. So how are we going to articulate that?
Increased performance in the new hardware.
Ooh. Or we could put it about the fact that the hardware is maybe going to be obsolete quite soon. Or do you remember that Simon Says stuff? This new one stops all the Simon Says stuff coming through. You're like, oh, cool, does it? Yeah. Yeah, it looks for all those little Simon Says phrases, bins them out. Which stops us having to do some back-end stuff, which means we reduce costs, we reduce risks, and our website doesn't get taken down, which means we have greater productivity because our e-commerce site is up for longer. Oh, cool. Not allowed to say more secure. Why do we encrypt them? People like pubs.
For us, it's entirely
Regulatory compliance is for a lot of people, but if you're not in regulatory compliance,
loss of assets, intellectual property.
Oh, nice one. Certainly if you're in a software house, intellectual property, ooh, yeah, very big. Financial services, if you're in a share dealing environment, the secret sauce as to how you come up that this is the ideal shares to buy and sell, that kind of algorithms, those are highly guarded. So the fact that the guy's got a laptop, it's not encrypted. Okay. Other things, reputational impact. Certainly if you're working for anything in government and you lose anything that's got government information on it, wow, you're front page of the Sun, aren't you? Top secret laptop found in pub. The fact that it was just something that they did local, bin collection doesn't make any difference. The Sun calls it top secret. Government contractor lost top secret laptop in pub. Reputational damage. Okay, that's the kind of thing we should be looking at. And that's that's like, whoa, that'll be monitoring your staff then illegally. Article 8, European Court of Human Rights. This whole series of why you shouldn't give that answer. But why do we do it? Oh, legally responsible. Oh, lovely.
Protecting the network.
Protect. Well, that sounds like security then, isn't it?
Okay. I'm a security guy,
Yeah, it is. It's like sort of. Yeah. So we could turn around and say, well. Well, this is the weird thing. Facebook's changed, hasn't it? 3 years ago, it was like, oh, no Facebook, no LinkedIn, no MySpace, if it's still on the internet. Now it's all, no, we've got our own Facebook page. We encourage our people to do that because it's supposedly cheaper than advertising to have 300 people spending 4 hours a day surfing Facebook, supposedly. But yeah, so content filtering can be difficult because if you haven't got regulatory compliance and you haven't got some sort of reputational impact and you don't want to tick the, we need to protect them, then go, why do we need to do that? Well, we could say, well, productivity's dropped recently. Let's see if we can improve it by putting up a list of who's been going to the, who's got the highest bandwidth on non-productive sites. We can maybe start blocking sites that aren't directly related to business activities, thereby pushing productivity up.
I personally hate the argument web filtering. I feel that it's entirely the local managerial responsibility to make sure that people are actually doing their job.
Yeah, but that's fine if you're in the old style where the manager used to walk up and down behind the people. When you've got remote workers VPNing in and you've got other aspects, they haven't got that level of monitoring.
It's still not the job's getting done. I'm not saying I don't think content filtering should exist. I'm saying I think that the impacts on morale and everything else from an enterprise say, well, you can live out the work. You can never ever do any personal work is more severe.
Well, you can allow them that because you can say we can monitor you a bit better. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I prefer not to get directly involved, and I would never sell this productivity argument. If anything, I sell content filtering, web filtering in any general sense.
Yeah.
On the operational savings of not having to clean up drive-by laptops every single
There's a cost
day.
impact there, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. So you say, well, now more attacks are coming in via the web rather than the direct attacks. We've got our antivirus that is going to stop us having to spend 3 or 4 weeks mopping up systems. The attacks are coming in via browsers now because we're not great at doing the updates for browsers. Then we're reducing that. Yeah. Cool. I need to do this penetration test. Yeah, because we're a PCI and we haven't had one for 2 months. Okay. Regulatory compliance for a lot of people is what's hitting it.
Yeah.
And that's why penetration tests are almost being commoditized now, and you get a pen test.
Almost. I've seen some emails I've received recently. They're off-site penetration testers in Croatia and Bulgaria, perfectly certified, they say.
A PCI pen test is like £64, I was quoted, per IP address for a year. You're thinking, well, what kind of quality check? That's like, so we're just paying for some QSS or QSA to run Nmap against our external interface and give us a report, because that's all you get for 60. That's four scans. Yeah, exactly. So you're thinking, well, so why do we need to do? Funds are tight, and therefore we need to focus on where our risks are greatest. This will allow us to identify where the risks are great, so we can see what we need and what risks we might want to carry, because we're not going to fix everything. We allow us to focus our spend appropriately.
Steve, do you mind me just going back to
Yep.
the previous slide? And I don't know whether this is off topic, just so someone who won this one. Pen test doesn't know about asset values. You've got an external pen tester come in.
Yep.
And you've got to put it into point account philosophy. He knows what he's trying to protect.
Yep.
He knows what his assets are. Trying to sell that to that guy, he goes, well, these guys don't, they know they're attacking a black box. It's a black box isn't the right term in this case, but they don't. You've got to put it into his terms. You've
Or actually for the pen tester? Oh no, this is when we're talking up. This is just to get the buy-in. This is to get the requisite order signed off to go, yeah, we need this £12,000 pen test. Excellent. Once we've got that, then yes. And as the security guy, because I know the business and I understand it, I can sit down with the pen tester and say, this is the stuff we do. This is bad. This is really, if you can get to here, you've owned us completely and you get a really good pen test because as the security guy, you understand better what's going on the network and you can advise them and you don't get a, how many times have you seen an organization getting a pen test and you come back and you go, that's a nice test, you completely missed what the target of the organization was because you just got a pen test. I've been phoned up by companies who turn around and say, yeah, we're getting the end of the financial year. Can we like book 50 pen tests? Can you give us like a price for 50? You're like, I can't give you a price for 50. You got to sit down and craft a pen test to get the right scope, to get the right content, to be a good pen test. Just giving you a price is ridiculous. Hindsight, I should have maybe just given them a price and taken the 50 pen test, but somebody else got that work. Oh well. So why do we need to do this one? Well, more focused. The previous one identified that we have a significant risk in our web application, which means we could be owned and lose a lot of reputational impact by losing 5 million records. They suggest that we do take this test, and he's going to spend a couple of weeks, he's going to look through all the Simon Says in our web application to find out where it's going to go wrong. Cool.
I have to say something, knowing what the value of the data is essential in that case. That argument I never expect to have an issue with because I know that the business fully understands that they care about losing sensitive well, we store information on medically sensitive people. They care, we feel the degree of duty of care to them.
But it's if you have somebody who just sees a requisite order for a penetration test and they're like, what's this for? You need to, again, it's back to articulating this to what you're trying to achieve. You give him the little headline so he knows what he's signing off. That's really hard. You are the #1 target. You are the biggest risk to our organization. Not you personally, sir. Get him. Because everybody's after the information you as the executive of this organization have, where we're going, that strategic information, man, that's a target. Wow, we need to make sure that you're absolutely watertight so that you do not, through your own volition, accidentally compromise a lot of strategic information about this organization. Nearly done. And also little things. We talk about patches, don't we? People don't understand patches. Think about the language and the words, okay? Patches are more updates. Security policy, yeah, managing information. Most people know about managing information. They don't care about security policies. Okay, SQL stuff, I said about Simon Says. Things like if you're talking about doing forensics, drive imaging, you know, that's like a detailed aerial picture of the hard drive, which can be quite useful when they ask you why it takes you 17 hours to look for some deleted files in the hard drive, and you ask them to see if he can find out how many pieces of litter are on the picture from Google Maps of Wales. He's like, oh, it'll take me hours. That's what I'm doing. I've got my detailed aerial picture, and I'm looking for little pieces of paper in the detail. So trying to get things into little real-world stuff that they can understand. Finally, because I am sort of pushing up time, don't be Mr. Gloom. Always have a positive image, okay? Always have something positive. Don't be the guy who's going like, oh, we got hacked last week, or there was a problem. Put the positive spin on it. So the previous government was all into spinning things. Which is better, the fact that you had an incident, or Maureen in accounts spotted something and phoned you? You still get the same message across, but next time when you say to the boss, oh yeah, Maureen there did a good job, she spotted something, you know, stop that going mad, because accounts could have been offline for a couple of days while we're trying to rebuild the machines. Everybody kept up and going. Next time the boss is in accounts, you'll be like, oh, well done, Maureen. She gets a pat on the back. She's thinking, excellent. Accounts people think, brilliant. It's a nice, happy story, as opposed to the, we got compromised last week by a virus. Okay? Put the positive spin. Always have, if you're worried about your job in this recession, always have a little presentation about what you do and key things you've done in the last 6 months. Do you know what you did in the last 6? Do you know what you did last week? What impact and value have you made to the organization in the last 6 months? Keep a little note. End of every month, what major things have I done this month? Because you'll be asked for these things. If they're doing headcount reduction, yeah, we need to like get rid of 4 people in the department. Here's what I did the last 6 months. Okay, I'll stay in the department. A 30-second summary of what's up, what's been going on, in case you end up in the lift with the boss. Okay, sometimes you want to avoid the boss. Sometimes you might want to sit there loitering in reception to get that 30 seconds unadulterated time with the boss in the lift. Have it ready. Statistics from the same sector as what's been going on the last month, depending on what you're doing. Good news stories and same sector stuff. So you know what's going on in the industry, what's going on with your competitors, what's going on internationally, and stuff that he might remember. And reason why you add something to the business. If you do all that, oh, hang on. You can be the business security guy and not the security guy that works in the business. Any questions? What's a big one?
I agree with everything you're saying. However, there is one.
However, comma.
Yeah, there's always a but.
Yep.
Recent news has showed us that, and I'll go back to your camping analogy. If the father is the manager,
Yep.
the son is the guy who is the security guy,
Yep.
and the son basically says, "Well, I'm going off camping, and the most important thing I need is bear spray because I'm having to go in camp where the bears are."
Yep.
And Dad comes back and says, "Well, bear spray is too expensive, so what I've got you is a pocket knife and a T-shirt that says bear food."
I like your analogy.
Because in reality, if the excrement meets the spinning blade, it's going to be, the dad's just going to say, "Well, I've got 3 other kids. You know, I can make some more, you know. I'm on my 3rd wife, you know. They're replaceable."
They are. That's where the BCC copy of where you made recommendations as to what the business should do stands you in some stead. But ultimately, if the business is going to sacrifice you because they've had a large compromise, then at least when you go, you're always going to be in a bad position. If they turn around and say, "We've lost 3 million records," tell you what, you are going to be the publicly shamed person. And you go, "But I've been asking for this for 3 years." Yeah, details, schmetails. We weren't correctly advised. You will then go to your next employer and say, "Well, they sacked me because..." You can't really go and show all the evidence to say, "Look, I recommended this," and you go, difference of opinions, I advise them on the risk, they chose not to accept it, I'm moving on. But if the I know one of my former colleagues was the senior person for physical security for a large aircraft manufacturer. When there was protesters, he was out on the wire. And you're like, all right, because protesters had got in before and smashed the cockpit of an airplane. So the CEO of the company turned and said, "The next time that happens, you, Mr. Security Guy, are sacked." So next time they're out and they go, "Hey, we've got some protesters outside," he is physically out as the head. And he's, there's security guards, there's everything else, but he's there making sure, because he said, "My job's on the line. Irrespective of what happens," he said, "I will get fired if they get in and damage that." And therefore, he goes and buys his own bear spray. I said, "Bring it. I've got my own IDS. I'm going to put it on the network, and I'm going to improve things." I'm trying to say that if the organization is that way inclined, that's going to happen anyway. And all you can do is prepare your case and say, "Look, I've got evidence to prove." You could do an unfair tribunal, you could do defamation of character, because you can say, "Here's all the BCCs, but I told you that we needed to do this, and you didn't do it." And that's what you only get out. Yeah, well, this is it. And that comes back to trust and confidence. If that's their attitude, you're thinking, "I'm best leaving anyway." Any other questions?
Comment. One thing that you didn't mention I find tremendously useful in this, in the knowing what's going on with your business area, is having a Google News alert set up for the business team, so I know what's on their minds anytime I'm dealing with them.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I do the same. Have you got one set on your own name as well, have you?
Of course.
Yes.
Which, interestingly enough, means I know that one of my cousins wins a hell of a lot of American football matches at Florida.
There we go. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.